everyone. Today is February 17th, 2015. With me is Gordon Jones. This is Age of Reason. We are a show that promotes positive atheism, knowledge, common sense. And today we don't have a lot of topics, but we're going to explore them in a lot of depth, I think. So we're going to talk about Islam and also biblical fallacies. Well, thanks for coming, of course.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to getting here eventually. I think we've been in contact for a couple of months now.
Yeah, true.
Finally found a window of opportunity.
True, yeah. So how would you describe yourself in kind of this religious field?
Yeah, well, I noticed that some of your guests, I'd kind of describe myself as a bit of a man on the street, agnostic. I'm certainly not an academic. But it's something that I do have a general interest is sort of religion and atheism. I think I discovered at a fairly young age. At a fairly young age, I thought I was atheist. And as I've gotten older, I've sort of eased off a little bit and sort of just decided to refer to myself as agnostic because I think it saves a lot of time. And I guess the main reason for that is for the same reason, I guess people say they believe in a God or they have a faith is the same reason. I think a lot of people just say that they're out and out atheists. There's a little bit of faith in saying that there can definitely be no God because we can't prove that. So I am so certain of there not being a God, or at least of there not being the kind of God that we've been offered so far, but just not quite enough to call myself a full-on level 7 atheist. Or
You can be both though. You can be agnostic atheist.
I guess so. Yeah, exactly. And so it saves a lot of time just to call myself agnostic, I think.
Fair enough. All right, cool. Well, you watched the last show and we me and Jeremy made a lot of points about the good and the bad in Japan and the States. Do you kind of remember any points that you thought, well, I have a different opinion? Or
well, I can't comment on the States because I've never been there. I guess I can sort of make a comparison to Australia.
Yeah, that's fine.
I love Japan. I love living in Japan. It just seems to be a much more, I guess, open and friendly society. I guess without wanting to sort of seem like I'm Australia bashing, I've grown a little bit fed up of it in a lot of ways. I think that...
you mean of Australia?
Yeah, that might sound a very un-Australian thing to say. But
you're not the first one.
No, I know what you mean. But I guess Australia at the moment seems to be caught between this awkward middle ground between extreme political correctness and then extreme bigotry and ignorance. I think you've just got far too many people that are trying to make everyone happy and tread on eggshells, and you got on the other side of the fence, people saying, "Oh, say what I want, fuck this person," and they're ignorant, opinionated morons. And so I think Australia is just a little bit frustrating for me, which is why I love living in Japan so much.
Cool.
Much more laid back. Everyone sort of has their thing that they do and love, and it's a very warm and welcoming society. And so far my experience here has been brilliant.
Cool.
But last time you were talking about, I actually learned quite a lot from what you were saying last time, particularly about healthcare and things like that. I wish I knew more about those things in Australia to really sort of comment on them with any sort of deep knowledge, but I kind of I can't really explain it in too much detail. But I think a lot of things, particularly in terms of that government and healthcare and infrastructure, Australia and Japan are very similar.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
The one thing we need is a Shinkansen in Australia. That would be pretty great. But
fair enough. Yeah.
Very different to Indonesia, though.
Yeah. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later. Cool. Yeah. I just want to make a few points before we jump into the main meat of the show. This is just recent events in the world. The first thing is the anti-vaxxers in America, who are trying to get more attention in the news and social media, of course.
Hopefully they don't.
Hopefully they don't. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it's fine if you don't want to vaccinate your child. I guess that's your choice. But you live in a world with 7 billion people. You're not alone. Your actions impact other people's lives. So just because of that, I think, I don't know. I mean, they said about, well, let's do it mandatory. And of course, people were up in arms. Well, damn government telling me what to do.
Yeah, I can, and I can sort of understand that to a point as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no sort of every single doctor in the world agrees that you should vaccinate, and if they're wrong, then it's just malpractice on a global scale.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they're all wrong. There's no
Exactly.
real logic behind the anti-vaxxer argument.
No.
So it's something
They're listening to people like Jenny McCarthy, who is very far from being any kind of scientist.
Yeah,
Or
well,
Jim Carrey, who's an actor.
I didn't know that he was involved.
Well, because they're together, I think.
Oh, of course they are. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I would rather listen to a doctor in this case.
Dr. Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not him.
Yeah. Well, Jenny McCarthy stopped being a celebrity a long time ago.
That's
so she
exactly
needed
true.
she needed to get in the limelight somehow.
She needed something to do, I guess. Yeah. The second thing is, of course, this Obama comment. Obama made a comment that the prayer breakfast. I love that. Why do they even have those events? Who knows? But anyway, the thing that he said is, lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place. The president said, I remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ. True. In our home country, slavery and Jim Crow are all too often was justified in the name of Christ. Again, true. Word for word, this is true, but of course the conservative branch took offense with that. How dare he insult our religion? Couple of tweets I got here. So the first one says, couldn't Obama, as a nominal Christian at least, say that crusades were not true Christianity? He continually says that about Islam. Well, again, if you go into history, and we will touch a little bit on the history later, the Crusades at the time was Christianity. I mean...
Well, you would say that it represented a larger...
Big umbrella.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A huge umbrella.
Yeah. Of course, I was saying to you off camera, the Republicans right now are very good at rewriting history. So basically they say, well, you weren't there, so it never happened. And I think that's the worst argument you can make for anything, actually. Yeah. It's like, am I arguing with a 5-year-old here, you know? No, we'll talk about the Crusades a little bit later, but yeah. At the time, that was your Christianity, pretty much.
Yeah, well, exactly. They were doing that, you know, like in huge numbers.
Yeah.
And when you talk about what's happening, I guess, with Islam, it really is the smallest fraction of a percentage.
Yeah,
it's a huge religion.
Agreed. Yeah.
Over 1 billion people. There is not anywhere near, I would say, 1% of that currently involved in that kind of behavior in Syria.
Yep.
That's a total guess, though. So
sure.
don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised.
Yeah. Fair enough. Of course, the next one is, to be fair to Obama, they probably taught a different history of the Crusades in Indonesian grammar school, and definitely at Columbia. No, actually, the person who tweeted that probably learned an alternative version of history and knows nothing about the Crusades. That's my guess. Especially with a picture like that in Twitter. Yeah, you can't really go very far.
Yeah. He looks like a baseball fan.
Yeah, he does actually, yeah.
Sports people should not get involved in politics. We learned that from Mel Meninga in Australia. One of our greatest rugby players had a political career of 7 seconds. Literally on radio. Went, I'm buggered, I quit, and walked off.
Interesting. I didn't know. Well, there you go.
It's a good YouTube video.
I should check it out. This is from an African-American guy. He said, Obama, while you're equating Christian crusades to burning that Jordanian pilot, don't forget it's a case of Muslim brutalizing another Muslim. Well, yes, it is actually, yes. But the thing is, during the Crusades, Christian people did some crazy stuff to Christian people too. Yeah, Inquisition is probably an even better example.
Yeah.
You know, let's find that rich guy and let's kill him for no reason. Let's take his money, because the church was basically getting more money at the time, so they found a good way to do that. Let's kill the rich people and take their money.
Yeah.
There
And
you
I
go.
remember seeing a quote or a tweet. It was I think a passage from the Quran saying that, I'm paraphrasing, excuse me, but basically saying that only God can punish by fire.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that and thinking, don't use that as your argument. If
Yeah.
you're still saying our God can punish you by fire, that's not a very nice thing to say.
No.
But an interesting point. You know, they're talking about doing things in the name of Islam, and, that is, you know, according to the book, they're doing something completely against their teaching.
Yeah, well, I mean, they cherry pick, basically.
Yeah. And again, that's something else we can talk about.
And we will later.
Things being open to interpretation.
Yeah. That's right. And of course, the last one I got on this paper, if you have to, what? He can't even.
I think the word "look" is meant to be in there.
Yeah. If you have to go back, let's say, if you have to go back 1,000 years to the Crusades in order to justify horrific acts of Islamic barbarism today, you got nothing, Obama. Well, yeah, except for the part that the Crusades played a very major part in that part of the world. And you can't just ignore that. I mean, the actions of the people back then, yes, they still impact people today. Yes, just get over it. You know, that's a historical fact.
That's a nice thing to say, get over it.
Yeah.
If only it was that simple.
Yeah. Well, it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson always says, you know, we people are insignificant in the grand scheme of the cosmos, and things happen at random. Get over it. He's right. But, you know, how do you convey that message to the very enthusiastic religious people that you mentioned? I don't know.
We touched on this before, I guess, off camera, talking about the idea of insignificance and how it's a terrifying thing to some people, or at least even an offensive thing to say. But I personally, I don't see what's so bad about saying we're insignificant. We are. It's just something that I think people have to kind of come to terms with, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing at all.
True.
To say that we're insignificant, I think it gives you a lot of freedom in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, you know, on the other side of that, I'm not insignificant because God is seeing every good thing that I do, and He's going to reward me for it. It's for me, that's something that I'm also not comfortable with, the idea of thinking that there's this almighty being that has done amazing things by creating what we have, and He's on top of all this other stuff, but He still has time to make sure that I, you know,
don't masturbate.
Don't masturbate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's actually talk briefly about the Crusades, because after Obama made this speech, I saw on Facebook in particular many people kind of promoting an alternative version of history. So I just want to set the record straight of what actually happened at the time, because that's what we do on the show. We kind of educate people who don't have the time for news and stuff like that. Well, it's not even that, actually. Those stories are never covered on the news. Yeah. And that we talked off camera. The news go for stories that make the ratings, not necessarily stories that are true. So you have to be very careful.
It's reality TV now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically. Agreed. So the Crusades, well, okay. At the very beginning, I guess, people got it right. Yes, at the time, you know, the Muslim armies were advancing through Turkey and posing a threat to Europe and, of course, the Holy Land, which for me is a ridiculous notion. There is no such thing as Holy Land. It's just, you know, country, which I guess in that case is Israel today. Just assigning this label of like, you know, you are the Holy Land, that carries a lot of baggage with that. So,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I don't think they wished that, but anyway, so yeah, the movement started with a Muslim army kind of advancing. It is argued by historians that this particular army was actually headed towards Egypt, but then of course Europe had to get involved and intercepted them in Turkey and lost, actually. But I don't know. I mean, if they let them alone and they went into Egypt, the results would be very different, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So that you have to consider. The other thing that you have to consider, and of course I'll post the links on the YouTube channel later. Well, that I mentioned. So the overall message, I guess, of the Crusades started in 1095, when Pope Urban II pretty much asked mercenaries in Europe to join the fight, to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim hands. And it's not just that. The Crusaders that went on that mission, I guess, sure, some of them were actually like soldiers trained in combat, but most of them were kind of petty thieves and, people who lived at that time. But the Pope promised everybody that if you join the crusade and if you go fight the infidels, the Muslims in this case, then God will forgive for any crime that you committed so far in life. So that was extremely appealing for most people.
Yeah.
Because, well, I murdered somebody in my life, but if I go on this crusade, God will forgive me. So,
where did he get that information? Where was his memo?
Yeah, from the Pope.
Yeah.
I mean, and they just believed that.
No, where did the Pope get his memo?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, they were trying to appeal to the masses, so that's very dangerous. The first crusade was from 1096 to 99. It was considered a success because it finished with the taking of Jerusalem, or the liberation of Jerusalem, I guess. But what is not talked about so often is how this happened. So there are, for example, historical records in 1096 when a certain, because crusades were basically a combination of armies. It wasn't just like one army, it was many. But one army who was going to Jerusalem massacred Jews in various towns on the way there. Jews, not Muslims, by the way. And of course, people say it's relevant. Well, those Jews use that as a crime, of course, today, and they use that to promote Zionism in Israel. So everything is related, cause and consequence. You can't just ignore it. Of course, when the main crusading army took Jerusalem, even though the Crusaders promised that they would just take the city and control it, without hurting anybody, when they actually entered, there are again historical records that they slaughtered hundreds of people. So so much for keeping promises.
Yeah, exactly. There's I guess with all these sort of examples in history of how religion has been manipulated, I guess, and interpreted in different ways. I mean, it makes you wonder how people don't kind of question it nowadays.
Yeah.
Again, like I don't like to judge, but for myself personally, just examples of them saying, "Oh, you're going to be absolved of all your sins." Like, where did he get that information? How did he know that?
Yeah.
There's no doctrine or something saying this is the case. It's just someone went, I reckon that.
Yeah, God is talking to me, so you have to believe me. Yeah.
Yeah. God said, go on this crusade, you'll be right. You go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just take their word for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then also the overall education was very low. I mean, maybe the nobles, they could have an education, but most of people were like peasants and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Criminals, petty criminals.
And jump at the chance.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, looking at it now, we know that was manipulation.
Sure.
And so, and there are so many examples of it.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, there are countries. Well, America is a perfect example where people just don't. But I think that comes back to the point I was making. It's some people who are influential to a certain extent. They are very busy at rewriting history, so they just change it. Or like they make the Crusades look like it was actually a kind of noble undertaking, which, well, you could argue that maybe it was, but they still did horrible things on the way to even reaching the Muslims there,
Yeah.
who they were supposed to fight in the first place.
Mm.
I mean, Jews, they had nothing to do with it.
Mm.
They still got murdered. So,
Yeah. And also, I mean, having grown up in a Christian country, and even though in my youth I tried to avoid learning about religion in general, it would be pretty likely that anything that we're taught about these things would have, you know, more of a, I guess, advantage or like favour towards the Christian side of things.
true.
So I, you know, especially when you're being taught at a sort of young age and you're being taught about, you know, I guess religion and morality when you're sort of growing up.
Yeah.
They do try to sort of sugarcoat it and sort of tip it in favour of wherever you're from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'd be, yeah, I mean, some information in there I'm not sure would have necessarily been shared in school.
Yeah. 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 There was another part I was looking for. I can't find it, of course. Yeah. When you want something, it's never
Yeah.
there. Okay, here it is. That's actually a very important part that I didn't know about. Even I didn't know about, even though I kind of studied this stuff. What happened is in 1994, so that was basically 1 year before the Pope made his big speech, you know, there was a kind of vacuum of power in the Muslim world because, I don't know, it just happened at the time that a bunch of leaders died in the same year. And of course, historians today argue that, did the Pope know about this? Did he want to exploit that vacuum of power? Because obviously you want to fight an army who just lost its leader. It's weaker. It was not just about land. It was about trade routes. It was about the treasures that were in that area at the time. It was not just about fighting Muslims. I mean, it's easy to rewrite history. Okay, I know that because, well, you know, I'm half Russian. And Russia is very good at doing that too. So it's nothing new to me anyway.
Yeah. What year was that, sorry?
What's that?
What year did you say for that? For the
rewriting history, basically.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's easy to make it look like a noble undertaking, but just bury the details. But the details are very important. You can't just rewrite history and get away with it. I mean, history is there for a reason. Hopefully, for example, people learn from World War II, World War One. Yeah, that was some crazy shit. Let's not do that again. If you don't have history, or if you rewrote history, it's just going to repeat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And of course, today we have, you know, in 1910, you had roughly 2 billion people alive. Today we got 7. You got another world war. You got a lot more dead. It's just, you know, it's just simple math.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So.
And I guess there's, you know, the whole thing about rewriting history, it reminds me of a debate where I heard about, you know, the character from Huckleberry Huck Finn, his friend Nigger Jim, and there's often periodically people trying to change the name of the character because it's, you know, really offensive to some people.
Right.
But it's a story, and it was written in a time, and in the context of the story about, you know, in the days of slavery, it's actually very important that they kind of maintain that character name, because that's how much his life sucked at the time, that he that's what he went by, and to take away the name, it just completely takes away the significance of the story and the time. And same thing in terms of rewriting history as well. I mean, what's the point of even having history if it's completely sugar-coated or diluted, and, you know, has gaps of facts missing? There's no point even. You don't learn from it.
Yeah. Well, I think America is to blame a lot for that. Unfortunately, I mean, even, well, if you just look at World War II, if you listen to, you know, serious historians, they will pretty much all say that the USSR won the war. There's no doubt in their mind. The USSR absorbed the bulk of the hit, and they survived it, and they pushed back. The Americans arrived like less than 2 years before the end and just kind of mopped up France. Italy, come on, Italy was not even an army. Everybody knows Italy was a joke. It was a Achilles' heel in Hitler's army. Guess where the Americans came from? Of course, in Italy.
I can't wait to see the comments you get
after
that on this video.
The thing is, like, Americans today, a lot of them, well, I'm half American. A lot of Americans today, they feel patriotic, but they don't know what that means.
Yeah, patriotism is kind of a crock of shit. So as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's patriotism's. We don't really call it patriotism. We call it Aussie pride, and it's a problem in Australia as far as I'm concerned. Australia rules. Why? Australia. Well, there's no reason why we should say that. We don't.
Kangaroos.
Yeah, what do we rule at? And if you look at not that many things.
Well, cricket.
Yeah, we're pretty good at cricket. We're actually the best country at Australian football too, believe it or not.
Wow. How many play that?
Well, the next closest would probably be Ireland, but that's because they have a game that's half like ours.
Yeah.
So, we're pretty good. We're pretty good at Australian football.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I used to make a joke about how America has a World Series of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And have like all these guys in different shirts, like an Italian shirt and a Japan things.
Right.
Can we play? And like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's our World Series.
Yeah, agreed, yeah. Yep.
But yeah, patriotism. Just the idea that just because you're from somewhere, you have to love it and you have to respect it and whatnot. It's one of the biggest crock of shits. I mean, people can't accept if their country has faults.
Yeah.
And, we do everything right, we're the best. But it's...
I think it's a delusion.
Yeah, it's arrogance.
It's arrogance, yeah.
As well.
And ignorance, often.
And definitely ignorance, yeah. It's it's one of those things that... patriotism, we hear so much about it, particularly of America. Just like, I'm a patriot, and the American flag on the front lawn with the white picket fence.
Yeah.
In theory, it's kind of a nice idea, but when your country, is doing the wrong things, like Australia, sort of isn't really great when it comes to refugees and things like that. It's Australia. Fucking don't like it. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that. That's the comment that comes back all the time. Agreed. Yeah.
If you don't like it, get out.
Yeah.
So here we are in Japan.
Yeah. No, I think that's the good point you make. I think a patriot. I mean, basically, if you do live in this kind of vacuum where everything is okay and everything is good, you're really missing the point. I mean, every country has problems.
Oh, for sure.
Japan has problems. China, Australia, US. If you close your eyes and you don't notice, that's a real issue. So I mean, we're talking about American Sniper.
Yeah.
And I still got people posting articles how great it is, and I'm like, you're really missing the point. You're ignorant. You don't know the facts. You don't want to listen to the facts, maybe.
I'm sure it was a really well-directed film. I'm sure it was really well acted. I haven't seen it, and I've read so much about it. I kind of feel like I've had a lot of spoilers.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting debates going about it.
Sure.
Some of the things that he did outside of the military, is that patriotic? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Coming back to the point you made about the American flag, by the way, well, the American flag was always kind of big, I guess, in significance because it's in the anthem.
Yeah.
But I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but at the end of the day, it's just a picture. I mean, it really is. I can wear like a shirt of Japan, but it's just a picture.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually ruined the latest Batman for me because.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, because for me, Gotham City was. I mean, especially the originals, from Tim Burton. It used to be kind of just Gotham City by itself.
Yeah.
But in the last trilogy, they really attached it to America. Like, hey, let's put American flags everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
Totally unnecessary.
That's a good point. I never even... Because I always sort of thought of Gotham as being like a fictional city in a fictional place.
Agreed.
And it didn't have to necessarily be America.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's what made that makes it much more, I guess, relatable, or makes more people kind of attracted to it.
And believable, because, it's this kind of science fiction thing. When you actually attach it then to, hey, it's an American city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Now, where in America is it?
Right.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. And we kind of feel left out now in Australia and Japan and all around the world.
Right.
You took our Gotham from us.
Right. True. So related to TV, actually, I just wanted to talk about Cosmos, the reboot, and you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, although most people do, in 1980, Carl Sagan made this series. I think it was 11 episodes or 12. I can't remember, honestly. But each episode kind of talked about science in a very simple way. Obviously, he's like a super genius, but he was able to very easily convey ideas, which was the point of the show.
Yep.
It was interesting, a bit boring sometimes because, it depends on the topic, to be honest. Some of it is interesting, some of it, kind of slow-paced.
Yeah.
But anyway, 34 years later, I guess, we got a reboot by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And it is true, because I watched both, it is true that a lot of points kind of repeat. Yeah. But this gentleman who wrote this article in particular seems to be obsessed about dark matter. He is absolutely furious that the show never mentioned anything about dark matter. The point is that scientists still don't know much about dark matter. So, of course, the show didn't mention it. It's just very simple explanation. You don't need to look very far. The show mentions climate change, but climate change is real. We know that. There are, I think they have a number of studies for climate change, and only 2 or 3 that disprove it, but 10,000 that prove it. So climate change has a lot of evidence. Dark matter, not so much.
The climate change debate always fascinates me, because people kind of get stuck on this whole thing of, can you prove it? The world's always gone through cycles of, ice ages and everything. And maybe it's just another, not ice age, obviously. But surely the point should just be, we could do more to pollute less, full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually, in a lot of ways, largely irrelevant whether or not climate change is real or not. The point is, we could pollute less.
Yep.
And in the long run, or in any run, that is better for us, for the environment.
Yeah.
So just do that. Stop arguing about whether or not it's actually exists or not.
Right.
Just stop polluting so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, just on the way to numbers, I mean, it's pretty obviously a real thing. But it's such a weird thing to get stuck on. I mean, and they always say, it's jobs, or it's growth, or...
Right.
Jobs is a great political buzzword to just sort of throw out. Jobs.
Yeah.
Jobs.
Gonna lose jobs.
I know.
Yeah, Bill Maher always makes a point about that. It's like, okay, those are shitty jobs. You work in a coal mine. You die from lung cancer. Is that good? Would you rather work in that, or a solar power plant that doesn't hurt you or kill you? Or
there was a fairly damaging sort of graph shown where it showed Germany compared to Australia in terms of average daily sunlight and the amount of space they have, and they have, they're multiplying us many times over of how many wind turbines they have and solar panels, and the number of jobs they've created through green energy initiatives. And they were saying, if Australia did what, we could just turn Adelaide into a giant wind farm and solar farm, and pretty much power all of Australia and maybe a bit of New Zealand. If we did it to Adelaide, that would be fine by me. But it just shows. I mean, if Australia did what Germany did, but with the space and the sunlight that we have, I mean, we wouldn't need, the coal industry. We wouldn't need these dirty big mines in national parks. And we'd create jobs. Jobs.
Yeah.
That buzzword.
Yeah, but you know, the people who advocate against climate change in America are usually paid by people who work in
Yeah.
dirty industry, and
Yeah.
it's in their interest to keep going.
Yeah, it's like just painfully obvious that how much of a, I guess, input the mining industry has in Australian politics.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah.
just Google Clive Palmer, and you'll see what I mean.
All right, will do. All right. So, yeah, of course, we already mentioned that before, but you know, on the show, he mentioned that Earth is insignificant in the cosmic scheme. Can't debate with that. I don't see why it offends people. The thing that pissed me off the most about this article is that it claims that the original cosmos was basically the message of it was cosmology in the surface in the service of atheist materialism. Try to wrap your hand around that for a second. What does that even mean?
Yeah, I was going to say.
So,
Me and big words don't mix. So,
yeah. Yeah, I really didn't see that as any atheist material. For me, it was a show about science. Now, if you put science and atheism on the same level, that's your choice. But I know many atheists who are not very, let's say, bright in science.
This guy right here. That's also, I think, another reason why I sort of lean towards being agnostic is that I can't throw out all these facts and figures and statistics to sort of, you know, I don't have a science really based argument.
We're not scientists.
No, I'm so not a scientist. I guess for me, you know, it's what can I bring myself to believe? And I think I've thought logically without having to pore over any data.
Yeah.
And my decision sort of brought me to, okay, let's say there is a slight chance that there was a creator. Even if there was, does he want us to do all the shit that it says to do in these books? Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. So I might even say to you, sure, I'm not going to disagree that there might be a creator, but it's just not the kind that you believe in.
Right.
No one creates a universe and goes, but just don't wank.
Yeah.
You know, please, I created this amazing waterfall, but remember the Sabbath.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
No, it just makes no sense to me.
Or kill your neighbor if he works on a Sunday.
That's
a nice one.
Well, he should be in church.
Oh yeah, well exactly. Yeah, of course.
Well,
yeah,
if he worked in the church,
right.
that's all right then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good
Well,
point actually. Yeah. But you know, they don't work in the church. They are volunteers.
That's where they get all that gold
that's
from.
How they got away from it.
Yeah, and their nice robes.
That's how they probably don't pay taxes also.
And build a school whenever you want.
Yeah. And of course, just continuing on, another comment was, I think in the first episode of Cosmos, there was the story about Bruno, the guy Bruno, who said, I think he dreamed that the world was round at the time where everybody believed that it was flat. And well, in the show it said that that was the reason why eventually he got killed. Because you know, back then, if you go against religious doctrine, they just you're gone. The point that this gentleman is missing, though, is that Neil deGrasse Tyson said that yes, Bruno had this vision, you know, and he probably died for it. But Neil Tyson then dismissed the entire story. No, that part never happened. You can watch the episode again. Trust me, it doesn't happen.
Good spot to finish on.
Yeah. No, but it's just the same one. I thought there's more, but there isn't. Anyway, we're kind of running short on time, so let's skip the Bible for today. We'll do it next time. But let's talk about Islam. And, I will start, and then you can talk about your experience, and then we can talk about some quotes. And we'll finish with that. Basically, what I did is that I got a few data.
Some data,
that you don't like, but...
Well, I like stats, but if they're related to cricket.
Okay.
So I'll pore over cricket stats all day. Actually, I did read one or two of the links that you sent me.
Sure.
And I pored over them as well.
Yeah. I got different ones. Some of them are pretty old, unfortunately. I tried to get the most recent ones, but I couldn't. this one, for example, is a ranking of human rights per countries. This is from 2007, unfortunately. At the top, of course, you got the worst offenders. And here we got countries like, North Korea, China, Syria, Iraq, Libya, no surprise, really, Cuba, Iran. Vietnam is, some countries were kind of surprising to me. I thought they moved on a little bit, but they're still pretty high.
Yeah.
Vietnam, well, no, the others are not too surprising, actually. But
yeah. No. Well, I'd like to know a little bit more about Vietnam.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I have a good friend from there, actually, and he's perfectly all right.
Yep.
This is a map of the worst countries in terms of modern slavery. So I have to define this a little bit before I talk about it. When people hear the word slavery, they think about slaves working on a field or something. But today, slavery is not just that. It's also sex slavery.
Yeah.
That is huge business. You got girls from Russia going to Japan or Korea, China, or Romanian girls, same. So slavery today is a bigger umbrella than just working in a field for no money. And here, in the worst offenders, you find countries like Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Sudan, Libya. So, of course, like I said, today, my main focus is mostly on the Middle East, while yours is more kind of from the Asian example later. This map here is the terrorism index, and again, in the worst categories, you find countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, Syria, India. India is a bit surprising, a little bit. Somalia, Yemen, Philippines. Well, Philippines does have I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, Russia, we know that. But Saudi Arabia is actually not in the top 20. So there you go.
And I have never had it clarified, but what the definition of terrorism is.
Yeah.
Because generally it seems to mean if you're brown and Islamic. And you do something that terrorizes people.
Agreed.
That whole debate sort of started recently with the 3 Muslim students that were killed in Chapel Hill.
Oh yeah,
and they're saying,
right.
well, was what he did terrorism? And that started this whole big debate as well.
Yeah.
You never hear sort of when VA Tech, the VA Tech gunman, he was never called a terrorist. He was it was a school shooter or school shooting, but pretty much the exact same thing as Martin Place, only more people died.
Yeah.
And Martin Place was called terrorism. So I've always been fascinated to know what actually is the definition of terrorism, and why does it always only get applied to brown, Middle Eastern, Arabic Muslims?
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, I mean, of course I will share the link to this website, and I didn't really explore it much. They might have a link where they do define it. You're right, though. That's a very good point. Like what was their technique of measuring? Yeah, good point.
Well, I mean, I guess the school shooting thing is a perfect example. That is taking hostages. That is shooting people randomly. That is, to me, terrorism.
Yeah, the Paris, right? Charlie Hebdo. I mean, were they provoked? Yeah.
Were they?
I mean, picture, but
I can't say drawing it. I will never ever believe that drawing a picture that offends you is provocation.
Yeah.
You could draw a picture of my mother with 5 dicks going in her mouth and saying, look, this is your mum. That's provoking me. But, well, no, it's not. It's a picture and I'm offended. But
Yeah.
Nothing could... It's such a shame that people really have to, tread on eggshells even just to express themselves these days. Sorry to use such a disgusting example before as well. And sorry to my mum. But yeah, the Charlie Hebdo thing really made me angry.
Yeah.
Here you have, in a country like France, where we have these rules and to do this is okay. And you're offended, so you have the right to be offended, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
So those attacks really, really sicken me in a lot of
Yeah, I mean,
ways.
you don't kill people for because they made a picture. It's ridiculous.
And I think we sort of touched on this before, we started here off camera, and just about if this offends you on a religious level, should that be a bigger deal than if it offends you on any other level?
Yeah,
Why is religious offence such a big deal?
Yeah.
Why should it matter so much that you're religiously offended?
Yeah.
Because that's your beliefs. I believe, and I said to you, I believe St Kilda Football Club is the best footy club in the world. And you could say, yeah, but Nick Rewald's a crybaby, and they're never going to win a flag, and you'll say all these things to me, and you're trashing my beliefs. Why is that less important than a religious belief?
Yeah, yeah, good point. Yeah,
and I think that sort of thing is starting to die down a bit, because now people sort of bag out Catholicism, Christianity a lot more openly these days. And Charlie Hebdo were just trying to do the same thing with Islam. They were just trying to say all religions are on the same page.
Yep.
All religions are equally as mockable.
Yeah.
And to draw a distinction, or to say this religion is less mockable than that, is when you start, messing with people's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
With bringing. Is that political correctness? I don't even know what that is. I mean.
Yeah, I think the whole problem started with the creation of gods, and then of course the ranking system. Well, Christianity is number one. How dare you say it's not?
Yeah.
And then Islam will say, well, no, the Quran is the most important book, so ours is most important. That's when you get problems.
And the thing that I always sort of find funny is that the ultimate fear or the ultimate punishment is if you don't believe in this God, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And so if someone else doesn't believe in your God,
Yeah.
it's okay, they're going to hell.
Right.
Like that's the worst thing that could happen to you. But to then say to them, oh, believe in God, and they go, no, I'm going to believe in Pluto.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you go, well, you're going to hell and I'm going to kill you.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's like double punishment.
Yeah, I know. You get to go to hell and I get to kill you.
Right.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Because I believe in this God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, America didn't help the whole situation. I mean, every time they get involved in the conflict, it only makes it worse. I mean, they basically reinforce the terrorist recruiting machine, and that's something that pisses me off. I mean, you look at conflicts in the world, and for some reason America always needs to stick its big fat nose into every single war. I'm sure if like Australia got some tensions with China for some reason, or even like Papua New Guinea invaded or something, America would be there with its 11 aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean...
Yeah, there's actually a disturbing number of Australians that are worried that Indonesia will invade us, because their population outweighs us, 11 to 1. And they think, oh, if Indonesia get together and, jump the ship, jump the seas and invade us, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But there are enough Australians that are legitimately worried about, actually terrified about that. Particularly, I'll just say in Queensland. Mainly in Queensland they're worried about it, because they'd be the first ones they reach.
There's those kind of memes going around on the internet, like if you ever think you are stupid, just remember that, for example, there are people who believe that Hitler is still alive and has a secret base under the Antarctic. Or like Mormons used to believe people live on the moon.
Yeah, there's I think it was more people believed Elvis is still alive than in evolution.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of hilarious little "do you believe in this or this" surveys. Right. And you think, gee, that can't be real. Yeah. And they're legit.
Yeah. And of course, the last map I just want to talk about, this is very recent actually. This is probably a projection for this year. It's basically an index of freedom for the world. And this website is good because it actually defines it. So you can go on the website and check it out, how they measured it.
Yeah.
In the most free parts, you got countries, well, most of Europe is in there actually. US, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, Australia, South Africa. In the worst offenders list, you got countries, again, like Saudi Arabia, Sudan in particular, but China, Russia, and other countries not ranked very very well either. Yeah, you made a good point. I mean, when people trump the religious freedom, should that be superior to trumping freedom in general?
Full stop. Yeah. And it's only because it's got thousands of years behind it.
Yeah.
That's
But
it. That's
like
the
you
only
said,
reason.
age doesn't make it.
No.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of, we've probably believed the world is flat longer than we've known it's round.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
anyone who now comes up to you and says the world is flat,
And some people do. There are, the flat earthers or something. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to Google that. That would be very interesting to read.
I knew a person who really believed in it. You know why? Because she saw one YouTube video and that convinced her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm like,
okay.
I can present. Well, it's even ridiculous to get into that debate.
Well, yeah, you
but
just show a photo.
Yeah.
You go, look, it's Earth,
Yeah.
quite spherical.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then they probably change their mind back again. Well, you can't
Yeah.
help people that are really, really impressionable, can you?
Yeah.
Their gullibility can't be cured,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I guess being impressionable is I guess one of the dangerous things I guess with religion as well, because often you do find people in a moment of weakness where they're most impressionable. Sometimes they will just believe something a little bit extreme.
Yeah.
And it's in terms of the religious leaders, whether it be Phelps from Westbury
Yeah.
Baptist Church, or these Islamic leaders that sort of deviate from the rest of the crowd
Right.
and pick up a few impressionable or misguided people,
Yeah.
and then it can be very dangerous.
Yeah, and that's actually their main audience usually. If
Yeah,
you
of course.
Analyze who follows it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hate gay people. Why do you hate gay people? We hate gay people.
Well, there's this book, right, and
Right.
it's a good read, and it shits all over gay people.
Yeah.
There's some stuff about slavery, but don't take that on face value.
Right.
The gay stuff you should,
Right.
because they're immoral.
Yeah.
That's something else we discussed earlier as well. Open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Whether or not the Holy Bible there is open to interpretation or not. It either is as it's written, not open to interpretation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Or it's a nice piece of fiction and
Right.
you have it on your bookshelf, or as a bookend or something.
Yeah, actually, my friend uses it as a table support. In some American libraries, they actually do put it in the fiction category now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there would be like one angry guy every day coming and go, "This is in the
Well,
wrong place."
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of
Again?
course. Yeah.
That would be a great photo just for your Instagram account.
Yeah.
But it's dangerous to say that this book is open to interpretation, because when you throw a passage at someone and say, well, how do you explain the book saying this? They go, well, it doesn't literally mean smack your slave around.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for something that I can't think of. But and then you have to ask, if the stuff about slavery is open to interpretation, then why isn't the stuff about gays open to interpretation?
Right.
It seems that they will not budge on that.
Yeah.
There's a strange sort of sexual obsession with the church. Just
Yeah, there
anything
is,
sexually
yeah.
related, they just don't want to budge on it.
Well, I mean, even if you go back to the Inquisition days, that was really just a bunch of men who just wanted a lot of sex. I mean, they basically blackmailed women in order to have sex with them. It was basically extortion.
Ugh.
Yeah, you can really look into that if you want. It was basically extortion. Deals that they were making, that they often broke in the end anyway. They still killed the victim eventually. That was just
Jesus.
disgusting.
No wonder I never learnt about this. It's bloody morbid.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think it should be more out there, and people should be aware of that historical context. I mean, you can't ignore it. You just can't.
Yeah, well, like we were saying before, if you sugarcoat history, then it just loses all its power, and you don't learn the lessons from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's finish with a couple of. We only have time for a few, I guess. But like you said, you lived in Indonesia for a while, and your experience was very good, actually.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm going back. So
Yeah.
Well, unless this gets a few million hits.
Right.
No, look, and yeah, I guess this comes back to another thing we've discussed where we talk about the... From my experience in Australia, Islam is very misunderstood. In fact, people have a lot of opinions about things they don't know, and particularly when it comes to religion, people say, oh yeah, like Buddhism's all peace and love and it's blah blah blah, and they wouldn't even think twice about what's happening in Myanmar. Mm-hmm. And you know, with Islam, it's so misunderstood. We have such, you know, our media is all sensationalist and headline catching, and it doesn't necessarily report facts. It just reports what it knows will get hits,
right,
and retweets and things like that. So yeah, our understanding of Islam is pretty limited, and that's the way we like it. Living in Indonesia gave me a really good, you know, taste of living in the world's most populous Muslim country, and I lived in Jakarta, where things are, I guess, a lot more laid back or relaxed than they are in other parts of Indonesia, like in Sumatra. But yeah, again, you know, woken up every morning by the mosque, which was you know, something I had to get used to.
Yeah.
Very
earplugs.
Yeah, I can't. I can hear. Yeah, I can hear my thoughts. No, but a very peaceful existence. I don't know if I had the benefit of being a bule or a white person there, whether or not that made it a little bit nicer. But everyone was just, and I'm clearly walking around not a Muslim,
right.
And people were, you know, very friendly and welcoming and warm. We were running a football program where you had children from a Christian orphanage playing with Muslim, you know, school students. Never any sort of religious tension or anything. Everyone understood. Oh, it's Christmas, so the Christian guys are doing this. Oh, it's Ramadan, so you know, I won't eat in front of the Muslim players. It's really good, and having a society where there is sort of like a multi-faith, or you know, it helps people to understand other religions a lot better.
Agreed. Yeah.
Australia's multicultural,
right?
But we have this buzzword at the moment, assimilate.
Yeah.
And if you're not Australian, if you're not dinky die, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
I had another point, but I kind of lost it.
It will come back to you.
It'll come back to me.
Yeah, the thing that's the important part you made. So yeah, those countries that do have the multi-faith, and some countries don't. I mean, if you go to Saudi Arabia, it's pretty much 100%.
Yeah, their way or the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we mentioned Malaysia as well, where you've got the Indian Malays and the Chinese Malays as well. Very multi-faith.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, look, a great experience living in Indonesia, and you know what we were saying about the media before, where people sort of say problems with Islam and Islamic, and why aren't the moderate Muslims and all this crap. You know, really, a lot of these problems are sort of coming from particular countries. It doesn't have anything really to do, well, not so much to do with the religion. And we can throw out examples of what's happening in Uganda with gay rights. Yeah. And that's all completely a Christian movement. Right. But it just doesn't get the media. Yep. It doesn't get people angry, and people want to be angry. And so
whatever sells the story. That's what makes the news, basically. So
yeah. And so I guess in Australia, we had towards the end of last year a hashtag flying around Twitter, ban the burqa.
Right.
And that was Corey Bernardi in his wisdom, and another politician who I forgot her name, but she's a doozy, from Tasmania. They were sort of going, you know, his quote was something like, "The burqa is a flag to fundamentalism and a symbol of oppression." And so he thought, what can we do about this symbol of oppression? We'll tell people what to wear. We'll oppress their freedom to wear something that is religiously significant to them. And it just, if you're going to have an idea, have a good reason for it. Yeah. The only reason people wanted to ban the burqa was, you know, bogans just saying, you know, it's about respect, or it's about assimilating, you know, it's about women's rights. But you're stripping their rights to wear something that's significant to, or culturally important to them. So it was just dumb. And we sort of touched on France, how they sort of have restrictions. And at first I was pretty annoyed about that. But I mean, that's kind of their right. But they weren't doing it, we're giving you your freedom back. We're helping you. It was, they had their concerns, I guess, to do with security mainly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And to be identified.
Right.
I mean, at least that there is some logic behind that decision.
Yeah, we need to see your face, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and even though I hope that never happens in Australia, that's France's right to do that.
Yeah.
And so they get to do that.
Right.
And, we mentioned I can't go to Dubai and eat a Big Mac during Ramadan on the street.
Right.
In my stubbies and a singlet.
Exactly.
Going, hello.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's totally their right to do that.
Yeah.
My missus couldn't walk around on her own in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's what your rules are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like I was making the point also off camera, is basically for that, well, for the Middle East in particular to change, there are two things that need to happen. There needs to be a religious upheaval where people just kind of realize that, well, damn, this is just a storybook, you know. But the second thing that needs to happen is a women revolution. In America, we had that. In Australia, women couldn't vote, stuff like that. No rights, really. Couldn't work sometimes. And that changed because of a big movement by the women in those countries. Yeah, sure, in Saudi Arabia and countries like that, they are very oppressed and they really probably need to push it higher. But something needs to happen. I mean,
yeah, and you mentioned it before. With women's rights to vote in Australia, Indigenous Australians have only had the right to vote for I think about 45 years. So when you think about how long we've claimed to be all sort of tolerant and understanding in an equal society, it really hasn't been
short
in the scheme of things. And we have existed for this amount of time, and that is how long we've had Aboriginals voting in Australia. And so like I said, when we tap our watches and sort of look at Syria and go, come on guys, where's this equality that we figured out one blink ago?
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And,
that's what seemed so hypocritical to me about the US, when they suddenly started to pass the gay marriage thing, and then everybody suddenly turned around and started criticizing other countries that they don't do the same. Well, excuse me, you just did it like yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Come on, guys. Follow our lead. New Zealand is great. New Zealand sort of has really led the way in terms of things like that as well. Yeah, and also they I don't know sort of about when New Zealand we use the word invaded, was invaded, but they've certainly had better, I guess, relations between the Maoris and with the Europeans than what we did have in Australia and what America has had with the Native Americans as well. So New Zealand is kind of, I think, one of those countries that
right.
Getting it right, definitely getting it right. I think they might have had the first female PM a long time before us as well, and I should move to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I don't like rugby enough.
Well, there you go.
But
anyway, let's jump into the quotes and we'll finish with that. I'll just pick a few, I guess, because we're kind of short on time. And I'll go through the brief ones first. This one I mentioned off camera, of course, for the thieves, if they're caught, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, cut off their hands. Yeah. That's not.
Well, they won't steal again.
Right.
That's really practical.
Yeah.
You can't steal.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I mean, the buzzword, like what you say, in this day and age, blah, 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 that shouldn't be happening. And true, I mean, we've come a long way. We don't guillotine anymore. And do we guillotine? No, we might not. But that's the law in that country. It completely follows religious law.
I think the point that a lot of people are making is that, well, if you go 400 years back, right, if you look at Christianity, and they were doing bad stuff still, and then they look at the Muslim world, well, in the Middle East in particular, and they say, well, look at them. I mean, obviously they observed our history, right? Look, 400 years, right? But if you really think about it, they did move on a little bit. I mean, they don't go on jihad as it was initially designed, right? Those big armies just like invading. They don't do that anymore.
True.
So you can't just say there is no progress at all. That's really kind of ignorant.
Yeah.
comment.
Well, there are glimmers of hope. I mean, you look at like Dubai is a very open sort of city. It's sort of much more laid back than like Abu Dhabi, and then you know that can spread. And what happened to the I wish I knew her name, the Afghani girl who got shot for
Malala
sticking
or
up,
something? I can't remember.
something like that. She got up for sticking up for girls' education rights, and now she's got a Nobel Peace Prize. And things like that won't go unnoticed. They will make difference.
Yeah.
They will make a difference.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I think you'll find that, and particularly with social media these days, and people are sort of more connected around the world, you'll find that, you know, I think you'll find that things will sort of change slowly. It won't change as quickly as we'd like it to,
no.
unfortunately. Because we did it 40 years ago, so
Yeah.
shame on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Just some more. Of course, this is kind of repeating itself, but the thing that the men can beat their wives if the wives don't obey them. Well, we know that. That's very sad also, of course, compared to... I always like how they say, like, compared to civilized countries.
Yeah, yeah. I even feel bad saying developed countries,
Yeah.
like, because I mean, Indonesia's not exactly
Right.
developed, but I feel a bit arrogant and like a bit like a jerk saying that. So what do you say?
I don't know. I think we need a better term.
Laid back
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah.
Indonesia's a very laid back country
Yeah.
compared to Australia. Yeah, so you could say, you know, third world laid backness.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that's probably just as bad.
And by the way, I just want to make sure, like, yeah, we are right now cherry picking a little bit, but you know, this is actually really in their book. So those fanatics, and that's also important to mention, the fanatics really follow that, you know. But the fanatics, like you said, it's a minority. And
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. The minority, the majority of people will interpret it in the positive way, in a healthy way.
Or they just ignore those.
Or they just completely ignore it. I guess I don't know how you positively interpret getting the shit kicked out of you, but you know, there's obviously going to be some people who take it exactly as it's written, which you can't exactly blame them for. And obviously, no, it's not just picking on the Quran as well. It's the Bible.
Oh, sure.
There's very similar things in the Bible as well.
Oh yeah, kill your you know, neighbor if you see him working on a Sunday. There you go.
Yeah.
Why don't they follow that? I mean.
Yeah. And also, I like the list of the 7 sins, and then it's got the punishment for each of them. And you know, like I don't know them. Believing in any other god.
Right.
The punishment is like genocide or something. It's not even just send you to hell. It's genocide.
Yeah.
And I wonder why there haven't been more genocides with the number of people that don't. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good point. Yeah, this one is a bit kind of odd. I was mentioning that about puberty, but it's very kind of ambiguous, so I'm not gonna mention it. I mean, because we couldn't understand it.
No, I
think you need the original. The translation is not very good.
I would say I need diagrams, but I don't want to see diagrams of what it says.
Yeah. But this one is very clear, though. You know, there's a verse that allows men to have sex with women who are prisoners of war. Well, I could read it, but I will just give the reference to people. It's better. They can just read it themselves. But this is in there. This one is very interesting because it says wives have the same rights as the husbands have on them in accordance with the generally known principles. Well, that part I actually agree. It's perfect. But then the next sentence says, of course, men are a degree above them in status. Okay, so you basically contradicted yourself in the next sentence.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Straight away. I reckon that's where they, you know, from Animal Farm, all men are born equal, but some are more equal than others.
Yeah,
it's pretty much exactly from.
Yeah.
Pretty much exactly from that.
Related to that is the one about inheriting. It's not here, but it basically. Well, I said it off camera. If there's an inheritage problem, the man gets basically twice as much as the woman.
Yeah.
The woman's testimony counts as only half of the man's.
Yeah.
That's in there. That's really in there. Oh, it's actually here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and of course, this one is pretty harmful. I guess we'll finish with this one. It says fighting is prescribed for you, and you dislike it. But it is possible that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you love a thing which is bad for you. But Allah knows, and you know not. Well, I have issues with this one because, well, it says God knows everything, but you don't. Yeah, wow. Okay, give me the proof. Give me the evidence for that. Well, first you have to prove that Allah is real. Then you have to prove that He knows the truth.
Yeah, he just said. He just said there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I think also that makes me uncomfortable about the reason I could never, I think, believe or have a faith like that or Christianity is just the submissiveness. Yeah. It's just so, you just got to pray and be on your knees all the time and worshipping, and you're so submissive. It's just...
Agreed. Yeah.
What a miserable... for me, that is the idea of misery. And obviously for some people, that gives them a lot of strength. Good on you, whatever. But for me, that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, you always feel inferior. And I guess through that, they have this inferiority complex. So they have to get angry at somebody, gays or, blacks or whatever. I mean,
the neighbour working on Sunday. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I guess I'm very happy, I guess. I don't know how it was I really ever became atheist or agnostic. I do remember sort of being about 12 years old, and I had a friend who, he was sort of non-practicing believer, Christianity, and I just sort of said, oh no, I don't believe in that, and I was really a bit of a dick about it, and I've always sort of I always feel bad when I think back to it, but I think it was just, maybe it was something to do with when my dog died, and my mum is kind of spiritual, my dad is just, I don't care. And we were all talking about sort of my dog being in dog heaven, and I just thought, I think I just sort of clicked one day and went, no, she's not in heaven. There was no sort of, no one said anything, no one did anything. I just think I went, no, I can't, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I think that's one issue that people have with atheism. It doesn't provide any real mechanisms to make you feel better in a situation of death, for example. Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, though, I would still rather hear the cold truth rather than some fairy tale made up about, well, my grandpa is now in a better place.
Yeah, true.
He's dead.
Yeah.
And just move on, that's just part of life. Life and death, it's a cycle. And
well, I've got a tip for you. My friend actually had a really smart thought. He said that he's atheist, and but he's also really into the environment. And he said that when he dies, he wants to be buried. You can get your coffin put in the ground upright, so it takes up less space. And then he wants a tree planted there. And he said, if there is any such thing as an afterlife, I think the most likely thing would be that the tree will absorb nutrients from you, and then part of you becomes that tree. And I thought, that's such a great way to think of it, where you literally just become a tree. Yeah. That for me is my afterlife now, I think. And I said, that's brilliant. That would actually be to me a real comfort on my deathbed if I know that someone's going to shove a tree in me, or put a seed there. I will literally become a tree, just as we sort of became ourselves from stardust, as Brian Cox explains in a way that I can't repeat. Yeah. That for me is your life going on, and it really was a great comfort, because you're right. It's hard to sort of deal with the fact that the TV just turns off once you're dead. That's it. But I mean, it's only as bad as what life was like before you were.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You started from nothingness.
Yeah. From memory, it was all right. It wasn't that bad. I'm not scarred from it.
No pain. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, that's one problem with atheism. But yeah, just I don't know. Just deal with truth. It's hard. Those moments are difficult. They happen. I mean, I've lost one of my cats a while ago, and that was bad. Yeah. Because I get attached to them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you just kind of, you have to move on, and you there is a period where you grieve, and then you have to move on, because What else is there?
Yeah. One thing that kind of now scares me is if you do a show like this and there's someone who has faith and now they're doubting whether there's a heaven, and that was the only comfort they had. Like they go, "Oh fuck, there's no heaven. What am I going to do?"
Yeah, but
I would feel really bad if I ruined that for someone.
well, no, I mean, but that will happen sometimes. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
But again, you know,
I don't feel that bad.
no, no. Deal with the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Any final points before we wrap?
No, not exactly. I'm quite happy with everything that we sort of covered today. It was really nice just to be able to, I guess, discuss this through. And I don't have any sort of pearls of wisdom or anything like that. I just think that personally, I believe whether there is a God, whether there is not. I think there almost definitely isn't. But if you want to just sit on the fence and if that gives you a little bit of comfort, good for you. But also, I think it's important to make the distinction that if there is a God, if there was an almighty creator, he doesn't give a shit if you were wanking over the most vile porn you could find.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if you're working on a Sunday. He doesn't care if you're gay. Why would he bother with that when he's got volcanoes to set off in Indonesia and
other planets?
And yeah, exactly. And other planets, exactly. Oh, so you're arrogant if you think that he cares about you.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a terrible thing to say. But yeah, basically that's pretty much my stance. Is just I'll even give you a slight chance that there's a creator. I'll give you that, but he doesn't care what you do.
Yep.
He doesn't care.
All right. Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Next show, again, I don't know when it will be, but I will post on the Facebook page. So, well, see you next time.